with your host, Jaden Miller.
Good afternoon, and thank you for joining me, Jaden Miller, on my podcast, Think About It with Jaden Miller. Hope you guys are doing well on this wonderful Sunday afternoon. I am located somewhere near Phoenix, Arizona. Glad to be with you guys today. Just a couple of things. Please like, share, and subscribe on my YouTube channel. I am trying to grow this channel, and I can only do so with your support. So if you could just please like, share, subscribe, I would appreciate that. And then, of course, I'm on all of the different podcast platforms. So if you would, please comment, like, follow, share on your favorite podcast platform. I'm on Audrey and Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Spreaker, Google Podcasts, Castbox, SoundCloud, iHeartRadio, all of your favorite podcast platforms. So I am there. Hope you guys again are doing well. Wow, a lot has gone on this last week. Personally, my wife got a little bit sick this week, so I've been kind of taking care of her. Nothing COVID related, but just the flu, you know. And so in taking care of her, I kind of got just a slight head cold, but my immune system is top notch, and so it was fighting back all of those germs and stuff like that. So you might find my voice a little scraggly, but that's about the extent of it. So those of you that are watching on video on my YouTube channel, you may see me take a drink of water or something like that, or those of you that are listening on the podcast may see hear a slurp or hear me take a quick break. So that's why my voice is a little cracky and my throat is just a little dry. So there, I just took a break, a water break. All right. As I mentioned, there's a lot that has gone on this week, but specifically, I want to talk a little bit about Joseph Biden and the fact that Supreme Court Justice Stephen Breyer has announced his retirement, and that the possibility of a black woman becoming a member of the United States Supreme Court has now become quite a possibility. And so I want to talk about some of the women that could possibly replace Justice Breyer, but then also some of the other really ridiculous comments that have come forward this week. First, I want to give President Biden his props for the fact that he wants to nominate an African American woman to the Supreme Court. I mean, he made a promise back during the campaign that if he did get that opportunity, that he would nominate an African American woman to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court, in its history, has only had 2 African American men to serve on the court, and then there have been only a handful of women, starting with the person right here from Arizona. I'll let you guys try to figure out what her name is. I know it, but let me see if you guys know what her name is. Think about it. Ronald Reagan appointed her back in 1981. Let's see if you guys can remember what her name is. All right. And no black woman has ever been nominated. As I mentioned, 2 black men have, and 1 Latina woman has served on the Supreme Court. So the 2 black men are Clarence Thomas and the late Thurgood Marshall, and the Latina is Sotomayor. She was nominated by and approved by the United States Senate. She was nominated by Barack Obama, President Obama. So, not very many women on the Supreme Court. 4, I believe. The one from Arizona that I challenged you guys to see if you could remember, Sandra Day O'Connor. And of course, there's Ruth Bader Ginsburg. There's Elena Kagan. And then there's Sotomayor. All right. In the out of the 115 justices that have served since 1789, the country has not done very well in this area in terms of having women, on the Supreme Court and having people of color on the Supreme Court. But Joe Biden is poised to make a difference and to nominate someone extremely highly qualified and someone who will, I'm sure, be able to quickly move through the vetting process. All right. So let me talk about a few of them really quickly. And then I want to get into this notion of qualified. And then I want to talk to you a little bit about this Mississippi senator, who calls them affirmative action stuff. Some people can be really, really, really ridiculous when black people or people of color want to move up in the world. Their racism, their prejudice really comes out. All right, so let's talk about a few of these extremely qualified black women. There's first Judge Kitanji Brown Jackson. She was one of President Biden's first picks for the federal judiciary and is considered to be the front runner for the Supreme Court. The president selected Jackson to replace Attorney General Merrick Garland on the influential U.S. Court of Appeals for the District of Columbia Circuit, which is considered to be the nation's second most powerful court. She was selected in March 2021, and she was confirmed by the Senate in June of 2021. There were 3 Republicans that voted to confirm her with all of the Democrats. That was Susan Collins of Maine, Lindsey Graham of South Carolina, and Lisa Murkowski of Alaska. So before joining the D.C. Circuit, Jackson was a United States District Judge in the District of Columbia and Vice Chair of the United States Sentencing Commission. At her confirmation hearing to the Federal District Court, Jackson was introduced by then Congressman Paul Ryan, a Republican from Wisconsin who would go on to serve as House Speaker before retiring in 2018. Ryan and Jackson are related by marriage. Ryan went on to say, "Our politics may differ, but my praise for Kitanji's intellect, for her character, for her integrity, it is unequivocal. She is an amazing person." Jackson also worked as an assistant special counsel for the sentencing panel for 2 years, followed by 2 years as an assistant federal public defender. The judge has been hailed for her work as a former public defender, as judicial groups argue there is a dearth of professional diversity on the federal bench. Kitanji Jackson is a graduate of Harvard Law School. She clerked for Stephen Breyer, the retiring Supreme Court Justice, on the Supreme Court from 1999 to 2000. All right. So that, ladies and gentlemen, is Judge Kitanji Brown Jackson. Next, we have California Supreme Court Justice Leandra Krueger. Okay, Krueger hails from the home state of Vice President Kamala Harris and has been a member of its highest court since 2014. She was nominated to the California Supreme Court at just 38 years old by then Governor Jerry Brown. Before joining the state Supreme Court, Krueger worked at the Department of Justice in the Office of Legal Counsel as Deputy Assistant Attorney General and in the Office of the Solicitor General as an assistant to the Solicitor General and acting Deputy Solicitor General. During her tenure in the Solicitor General's office under President Barack Obama, Krueger argued 12 cases before the U.S. Supreme Court. She also received the Attorney General's Award for Exceptional Service in 2013 and 2014. Krueger also worked in private practice and clerked for Justice John Paul Stevens at the Supreme Court from 2003 to 2004. She graduated from Yale Law School. Next, we have a very unique candidate in terms of her collegiate pedigree. This is Judge J. Michelle Childs. She is 55, was formally nominated to the D.C. Circuit by President Biden earlier this month, and has served as a judge on the United States District Court in South Carolina since 2010. Before her appointment to the federal bench, Childs was a state court trial judge on the South Carolina Circuit Court and a commissioner of the state's Workers' Compensation Commission. Childs also worked as deputy director of the Division of Labor at the South Carolina Labor Department. She graduated from University of South Carolina School of Law. There's a difference there. Okay, she's not a Harvard or a Yale graduate. She graduated from the University of South Carolina School of Law. Childs is a favorite of South Carolina Congressman Jim Clyburn, a Democrat who is the highest-ranking African-American in Congress, and whose endorsement of Mr. Biden was crucial to him winning the state's presidential primary in 2020. Clyburn hailed Childs in an interview with The Post and Courier last year, not only for her judicial experience, but also her different educational background. If selected by President Biden and confirmed by the Senate, she would join a Supreme Court whose current membership includes 8 graduates of Harvard or Yale law schools and 1 graduate of Notre Dame Law School. All right. Next, we have another fine judge, Judge Candice Jackson Akawumi. Jackson Akawumi was also in the first group of Mr. Biden's judicial nominees and was a partner at the Washington, D.C. firm Zuckerman Spader until her nomination to the 7th U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals in 2021. She was confirmed in June to the 2nd Circuit by a vote of 53-40, earning GOP support from Graham, Collins, and Murkowski, just like Jackson, who I mentioned to you all a few minutes ago. For a decade, from 2010 to 2020, Jackson Akawumi was a staff attorney in the Federal Defender Program for the Northern District of Illinois. During her tenure there, she represented more than 400 indigent clients accused of federal crimes. With her confirmation to the 7th Circuit, Jackson Akawumi became the first judge appointed to that court with a background as a federal public defender. Jackson Akawumi is a graduate of Yale Law School. All right. So now we see, all right, that we have quite a few prominent African American women, all right, that could take the seat being left by retiring Justice Stephen Breyer and fill it monumentally. All right. Okay. So now there are several other African-American possibilities, African-American women possibilities that could be, brought forth. Joe Biden has stated that all of these candidates will have extraordinary qualifications. Okay. The funny thing to me is that we have some now people coming out of the woodwork, that whose hair on the back of their necks, is standing up because Joe Biden has the nerve to state that, I'm going to nominate an African-American woman to the Supreme Court. So now what happens then is their prejudice and their racism starts to ooze out of their pores, okay? And for some ignoramuses, it begins to ooze out of their mouths. And there's one particular GOP senator from Mississippi. My parents are from Mississippi. I love Mississippi. I lived in Mississippi. But sometimes there are some real backwards ass people, in the leadership in Mississippi. And one of the senators from Mississippi, Roger Wicker, is one of those backwards ass individuals. All right. So let me tell you what he says. He says, the first black woman nominated to the United States Supreme Court by President Joe Biden will be a beneficiary of affirmative action. Huh? This is what he goes on to say. Listen to these crazy words. The irony is that the Supreme Court is at the very same time hearing cases about this sort of affirmative racial discrimination while adding someone who is the beneficiary of this sort of quota. He said Friday in an interview with local radio network Super Talk Mississippi, referring to the High Court's recent decision to reconsider challenges to race-based affirmative action in college admissions. Let me read on some more stuff that he says. The majority of the court may be saying, writ large, it's unconstitutional. We'll see how that irony works out. Huh? This idiot can't even speak. All right. What? All right. Now, these comments come despite him not even knowing who Biden will nominate. Okay. All right. I mean, what an ignoramus. All right. So now he talks about will be a beneficiary of affirmative action. Okay. And then he goes on to talk about this type of affirmative racial discrimination. Well, you know what, Senator Wicker, someone like you, okay, who is old enough, all right, to have lived in Mississippi during the time where black people were being hung. Do I even need to mention Emmett Till to you, Senator Wicker? Okay. Where were you? Okay. What did you have to say when Emmett Till's mother was going to court and these men were found not guilty? Did you speak up, Senator Wicker? Was there affirmative action going on then? Was there racial discrimination in the court system? How dare you? You know, why don't you just sit back and just be quiet, okay? And just let your racism and your prejudice, just talk to your wife or talk to your kids about it or talk to some of your fellow idiots, about stuff like that. But to come out publicly and even say something like that, so when we talk about qualifications, okay, in my short life, I've heard this so many times. I sat on a board once where, I was advocating for more people of color to be in certain positions. And there's this white woman, conservative white woman, that made the statement, well, I don't want any unqualified minorities to have certain positions. And, I just reared back and said to myself and to her, I says, you know what? If we look back at the history of this country, okay, I am very sure we can find, okay, some white men that were absolutely not qualified, okay, to be in the positions that they were in. Do I need to name them? Okay. All right. But then it always seems that when there's a black or a Latina or an Asian or Latino or anybody of color that is seeking a higher position, okay, then these idiots come out with these stupid statements. These same people, that don't want affirmative action. These same people that say, oh, racial discrimination is dead. These same people that say, oh, well, aren't we all equal? But yet, when you nominate someone that looks different than they do, okay, that comes from a different place than they do, then that did not go to the same schools that they did because they were probably denied from doing so, then they have something to say. Well, is this person qualified? Are you? Any of these women that I've just mentioned have more qualifications in their left pinky finger, all right, than some idiot senator from backwards ass Mississippi. All right. No. So, Senator Roger Wicker, why don't you take your not talking ignoramus butt and sit down and wait until President Biden nominates the person he wants and then speak on what you don't know. All right. See, former President Ronald Reagan made a similar commitment when he was a candidate running back in 1980. All right. He promised to name a woman to one of the first Supreme Court vacancies in my administration. That was Ronald Reagan. See, that's who all of these idiots look up to, Ronald Reagan said that. So now Joe Biden on the other side of the aisle says similarly the same thing. And then you want to go to, is she qualified? Are they qualified? Wow. That's because, see, for many years, it's been presumed that the only qualified candidates were white men. Okay. But, okay, if we go back into history, and let's just be frank, okay, and if we look at some of the tragedies that have happened in this nation, whether they be wars, whether they be the collapse of our financial systems, okay, haven't white men been at the head of these things? Yes. Okay. So were they qualified? Qualified to run the country into the ground. All right. In any event. All right. These women are highly qualified. Lindsey Graham even said this today. He said that one of them specifically South Carolina U.S. District Judge J. Michelle Childs is as qualified by every measure and one of the most decent people he's ever met. Well, you know what? I am not a big fan of Lindsey Graham, but at least he can be fair in lavishing his praise on this possible Supreme Court nominee. He says, I can't think of a better person for President Biden to consider for the Supreme Court than Michelle Childs. She has wide support in our state. She's considered to be fair-minded and a highly gifted jurist. She's one of the most decent people I've ever met. This is what Lindsey Graham said. Lindsey Graham is one of the senators from South Carolina who also sits on the Judiciary Committee. This is what he said in an interview on CBS's Face the Nation. He goes on to say she's highly qualified. All right. She's a good character, and we'll see how she does if she's nominated. He goes on to say, but I cannot say anything bad about Michelle Childs. She is an awesome person. Now, as I mentioned, I'm not a big fan of Lindsey Graham, but I like people that can be fair. Okay. And it really seems to me, at least in this particular case, he is being fair. All right. All right. He obviously knows who she is. She's from his home state. All right. We can see things politically different. We can be on different different sides of different issues. But what really bothers me is when these partisan hacks, like this stupid senator from Mississippi, make these stupid comments, because their racism and their ignorance is so deep rooted, okay, that whenever they speak, especially when it comes to issues of race, okay, they forget about the land of the free and the home of the brave and think back to the times when black people were subservient. Okay, especially in his backwards Mississippi. All right. So, Mr. Wicker, why don't you move Mississippi to specifically in education and other areas? Why don't you move it from being number 50 or 49 or 48 or 47, wherever it is? Why don't you move it up to the midpoint of all of the 50 states? Okay, maybe focus on doing things like that instead of running your mouth. Okay, because just ignorance comes out of it. All right. Let me take a quick break. I just want to talk to you again, guys, about a podcast that I listen to very often. It is called the Man Space Podcast. And Russ and Les, those are the two guys that are on the podcast. They talk about a multitude of subjects from a man's perspective. So check this out. I just listened to them the other day on their January 26th episode. That's episode 83 for them, guys. It was Man versus Dating. And they had Miss McKinney. She's the host of Porch Time. They had her on their show. Now, the Man Space Podcast, all right, is a place for men, okay, where they talk about relationships and things, as I mentioned, from a man's perspective. Well, Miss Kenny was the fourth woman to be in the man space, and so it was a really, really great episode. I really enjoyed it. So I'm going to again tell you guys to listen to Russ and Les. Check out their podcast, the Man Space Podcast. Also, you can check them out on their website, themanspacepodcast.com. Russ and Les, these guys are the best. Check them out. All right, so I was talking about the United States Supreme Court and the fact that Joseph Biden, our president, has committed to naming an African American woman to the United States Supreme Court. In the U.S. Supreme Court's history, there have only been two African American men. One is currently on the court, that is Clarence Thomas. And the first African American man on the court was Justice Thurgood Marshall, who, of course, has died many years ago. And then there's been several women that have been nominated and appointed and then selected to be on the Supreme Court. Sandra Day O'Connor, Elena Kagan, Justice Sotomayor, and then, of course, the late, great Ruth Bader Ginsburg. So this individual will be the fifth woman to grace the Supreme Court. Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot. There is another one. Amy Coney Barrett, while certainly qualified to be on the Supreme Court, she kind of gets lost because, it was an election year and, we kind of forget, about, we didn't forget. forget what the fact of the matter is that, some of the United States senators claim that, when Barack Obama wanted to appoint Merrick Garland, it's too close to a presidential election and that's not fair. And yet they went and did the same thing by nominating Amy Coney Barrett. So sometimes I tend to forget about her, but no disrespect to her. But so, yes, there would be an African-American woman would be the sixth woman to be on the United States Supreme Court, but yet the first black woman. So anyway, this is a monumental thing for President Biden to be able to nominate someone to the Supreme Court. I think that's something that presidents always look forward to being able to do. And I really commend President Biden for keeping that commitment to want to make sure that this happens. All right. There were more than 100 influential black women leaders that thanked Joe Biden in a letter honoring his promise to nominate a black woman to the Supreme Court, who, if confirmed, would be the first ever to sit on the bench. This letter was delivered to the White House Friday, and it was intended to both praise the president and express their readiness to mobilize around the eventual black woman nominee ahead of what's expected to be a rough confirmation process. Now, my question is, why does it have to be rough? Okay, so if this person is supremely and exceptionally qualified, all right, has all of the pedigrees, the universities and the law degrees and the experience, why does this have to be contentious? Why does it have to be rough? Because it's a black woman. Okay, that letter went on to say, we believe that it's important that black women show our appreciation to the president for unequivocally keeping his word on this promise that he made during the campaign and to lay down a marker that says, this woman, we will have her back. That was Karen Finney, a senior Democratic strategist and CNN contributor who helped craft the letter. She went on to say it's also an expression of joy. All right. Nominating a black woman with the necessary compassion, sense of justice, and brilliant legal mind will bolster the integrity of the Supreme Court by bringing about a balance that ensures the court is more representative of all Americans. Biden on Thursday, as you all know, committed to the historic nomination, fulfilling a campaign promise he first made in South Carolina. Again, what really strikes me is when we're talking about black women, and this is really kind of offensive, that, we have to talk about, this person will have extraordinary qualifications. This person will have extraordinary character and extraordinary experience and integrity. Okay. Like black women don't have that. And so, but this person will. Okay. So that's what I'm saying, that the way this is coming across, by specifically people on the conservative side, but then just ignorant people in general, that, is she going to be the angry black woman? Is she, going to have rollers in her hair and wearing, house shoes to the Supreme Court? That racist kind of stuff that people like to think about. All right. As though a black woman's mind is not as sharp, if not sharper than a black man's or a black or a white man's mind. OK. It's just that kind of ignorance, that kind of bias, that kind of, discrimination that really, really bugs me. So in essence, there is going to be a black woman nominated to the Supreme Court. She will be qualified, just like anybody that sits on the Supreme Court now. All right. Anybody that sits on the the Circuit Court of Appeals, anyone that sits on the U.S. District Court, or in the case of one of the possible nominees, she sits on the California Supreme Court. All right. So in order to get to these courts, they had to have some qualifications. OK, actually, some exceptional qualifications. But to continue to perpetuate that, this person, that in general African American women don't, but this person will. That's the message that's coming across. And I think that's a sad message, especially for those of us that have Black mothers, that are exceptionally talented, that have sisters, that are well educated, that have daughters that are well educated, that has a wife, that is well educated and intelligent in many, many ways. Okay. It's bothersome to hear people, come against these potential nominees and question whether or not they're right for the Supreme Court and if they are affirmative action people. All right, guys. So that's my podcast for today. So again, please like, share, and subscribe on my YouTube channel. I'm trying to grow it, and I can't do it without your assistance. All right. Please like, comment, follow on your favorite podcast platform. Again, this is Jaden Miller. Think about it. I want you to think about what I had to say today about these potential Supreme Court nominees and some of the ignorance that's coming out of some people's mouths when it comes to the qualifications of an African American woman to the highest court of the land. All right. I'll see you guys on my next episode. Think about it with Jaden Miller. Have a great day.
Thank you for listening to Think About It with Jaden Miller. Don't forget to like and subscribe to his YouTube channel and like and follow on your favorite podcast platform.